Whoa, those lights are bright. Can't see you guys at all. Hi, and first of all, thank you everyone for being here today and giving us your time. We super appreciate it. I am super excited to share our journey of predictive with Sean, and I'm a big believer as we get started to share just a little bit of the backstory. It started 14 years ago, and we're going to be talking about the journey, and it's not the destination, and we can continue to do more and more and more as time goes on. Whoa, got a little feedback. Can we pull my voice down a little bit? Okay. And so 14 years ago, I started out on this journey with Cisco, tying together multiple different sales and marketing systems. And we were doing backward-looking analytics. And I had an idea that instead of looking backward on data and trying to tie all the systems together, what if we could look forward? What if we could predict the future? And good people like Sean and his team at Cisco many years ago believed in myself and our team, and we started building what we were starting on our journey of predictive modeling. We're now 6 years into this project with Cisco, and when we rolled out our first set of results, we were predicting like an 86% accuracy rate, and there's just so much more to do, and I'm so excited and blessed and humbled to be on stage and share this journey that Sean and I have embarked on together. So when I think about predictive, and I think about the opportunity it holds for us, if you just think for 1 second, let's step back out of our B2B sales and marketing roles that we're in today. 90% of the world's data was created in just the last year. We're all walking around with these crazy supercomputers in our pocket, leaving behind a digital trace of exactly what we want and need. Everywhere we go, every website we visit, every interaction we take, we're telling those marketers and those people exactly what we're interested in. And as we're leaving this trace, it gives us these signals. Data knows us today better than we know ourselves. If we think about, even from our Uber app, if I'm walking out of a restaurant, imagine a day where Uber just is there waiting for you because they know that that's your pattern, right? So when I walk out of San Francisco and I'm finished my restaurant, I'm finished my eating, and I start getting up and moving towards the door, that my car shows up. And these things can happen in the B2C world and B2B. And B2B, I actually say, have an advantage over B2C because we have exponentially more data when buyers are making a decision. So many of you have come up to our booth in the past couple of days and talked to us about these long-considered purchases, and it's not an impulse buy. And what I say back to you is that's amazing because that's a greater trace of data that we can pick up on and listen to. It reconfigures to match our needs, and it's moving from a passive state of information to coming alive, to telling us what the next interaction should be and what we should be doing next and where people are in the sales cycle. So I implore you to imagine a world. So forget everything you think about predictive, but imagine a world where you can predict your next customer with an 86% accuracy rate, where you know what they're going to buy, when they're going to buy, how much they're going to buy, what channel to reach them, and what content to reach them in. That's the world of predictive. So your pain as marketers is that you don't know where the buyers are in their buying process, and you don't know who's in market to buy. So if you think about your entire universe, and think about Cisco owns a vast majority of their market share. Even they, as marketers, don't know which companies. They can sell to anyone, any company that they're out there going after. They don't know who's actually in market. And if you think about that universe of B2B marketing, maybe like 1% are raising their hand and becoming those inbound leads, right? So they're saying, hey, we want to talk to you. And where are you in your buying cycle when you raise your hand? When you fill out that form and download that white paper, you're deep in the process. You know you want to talk to that vendor. So the challenge for marketers is how do you get in front of those buyers before they lean into you? And then you have all the outbound, so the people going out and hunting, right? So they're going out and trying to find the accounts and find the contacts that are in market to buy. And then there's all these old leads that you're sitting on. You called on them 6 months ago, and they didn't convert. And what happens? If they don't actually engage with you again, you don't call on them again. You don't send them back to sales. But what if they're out there engaging on trade publications and doing their research, and they're back in market, and they weren't in market 6 months ago? You lost that. So Cisco's sitting on hundreds of millions of names that they're not calling anymore because 6 months ago when they tried to call on them, they didn't convert. And I actually have one customer who tells me one of their biggest problems is opt-out. If we can just keep our opt-outs the same number, right? They have all these leads coming in, and then they email people and they call people and they opt out, and then those numbers start to shrink. So their goal is just to keep that flat. And that's actually really sad. And that's because you're not getting the timing right? You're not hitting them the right message at the right time. So the goal of 6 Sense and of Predictive is to help you uncover all of those buyers early when the timing is right. So if I think about, this is a really ugly slide, but I put it up here on purpose because your journey is ugly. You think about what you're doing from a B2B marketing perspective. You run search campaigns. Let's imagine somebody is searching for routers in the Northwest for a healthcare company. If we're lucky, they see Cisco at the top of the list, and they click to the Cisco website. Then they get to the website, and then we're hopeful that they're going to fill out a form, raise their hand, download that white paper, and get into our process. Or we syndicate content out on all the major big B2B trade publications. Again, we hope that they'll click on that ad and get into our system. At best, 1% of our buyers are actually going through that process and getting into our marketing automation system. So I just put this up here to remind us of how many people we aren't reaching, that are researching, that are out there external to our privy and our view, that are inside of the Cisco four walls. Just based on time, you guys all know all these things, but basically, there's so much research out there that says buyers are leaving behind this trace long before they fill out that form. 74% of buyers are doing more than half of their research online before engaging with the salesperson. There's 5.4 buyers, and usually on average in a B2B sales cycle. What does that mean? That means that there's the one person who downloads the white paper, but there's 4 other people that you're not talking to and aren't the ones that are going to convert, right? So they're not raising their hand, and you have to get in front of those people. So we're leaving this crazy trace. We're going to all these big trade publications. There's 1 trillion searches a year that are happening right now, and imagine how many of those, maybe 20% of those are B2B, telling us, when you're putting in those search terms, that's intent of telling you exactly what you're looking for and what your needs are. It may be searching for Cisco's products or their competitors' products or a pain that Cisco solves. But every one of those interactions are leaving behind a trace of exactly what these customers want and need. They're giving us these signals of their pain. And what Predictive does is it harnesses those signals, brings it all together, and instead of looking at these billions of rows, we're processing about 90 billion rows of behavioral data, it tells us actually who has a need and who's in market for the particular products that our customers are selling. I'm going to just skip over a couple of these slides. I'm just looking at time here. So basically, if you think about the 4 categories of predictive, we look at it at an account level and a contact level, right? So at an account level, we're trying to figure out if this is the right customer and it fits the profile of other companies I've sold to before. So companies that do this, so Lattice, Infer, Everstring, Mintigo, and ourselves offer net new accounts as well as scoring existing. At the contact level, that's saying the job role, job function, title, decision maker is the right thing, is the right person. Again, Lattice and Infer and ourselves, Lead Space and ourselves will give you net new contacts as well, new people in the cycle. And then the contact in market scoring is basically just saying, is this person engaging? For most B2B companies, one contact can never be predictive because they're not doing enough. No behavioral model can be predictive because there's not enough activity for one person. The only thing that's really truly predictive, and what we hang our hat on, is this concept of in-market data, that this account is in market, and it's the power of harnessing all these anonymous footprints and trails that we're leaving across the greater web, not just in your marketing automation and your web and your CRM, but happening across all of search and trade publications and blogs and communities to say this company is actually in market for these products. No one person can be predictive. And the profile scoring is just doing lookalike. It's saying this company looks like another company you've sold to before. So it's really giving you more of what you already know. So I like to say those are the easy buttons. And I kind of went through this already, and I want to pass this to Sean. Just really quickly on data. So we're tying all of your data together. There's all these commodity static data sources like Bombora data. There's data sources like DMB data and Compass Media. So these are attributes of a company and attributes of a contact. Most trade floors you'll walk across, and you'll see all these vendors that are selling data. So data today is a commodity, and we can get all that data, and that helps us do the profile scoring. But really what's unique and what gives us that signal of somebody being in market is all of the behavioral intent data. So it's the thousands of trade publications, those places you go to syndicate content. It's the search queries. It's things that are happening in blogs, in communities, in forums, and it's harnessing all this unstructured behavioral data to tie that back up to an account and say this company has a need for the products that you're selling. So we're tying it all together, and then we're basically looking for those patterns, and then we make a prediction. So when we bring all that data together, we're making a prediction that company A is 80% likely to buy routers, $5 million of routers in the next 6 months. So we're bringing all that behavior data together to say this company has a need for the products you're selling now. And then the use cases are, we all know that we can use it for predictive lead scoring, right? So as a lead comes in, but imagine being able to use it to influence your media strategies, so all the advertising that you do. So all this concept of ABM is actually kind of missing a really key piece of it. So I can go after accounts, but if that account is not in market, then it's just as good as like heuristically doing it yourself. And if I'm going after Dell as, let's say, a prospect of mine, and I reach everyone that works for Dell, I'm wasting a whole lot of money. I need to be going after the CMO, and I need to go after the right title that actually would buy from me. So you need to go after the account and the person within that account. So it can't just stop at account. So the account base is kind of the start of it, and that's like this account-based marketing. But you also need to know that they have a need and they're in that buying cycle. And then you can personalize the website, and then any outbound activities. So think about everything that your sales reps are doing that's account-focused. So everything from regional, like territory assignment and management. We have customers using it to decide where to set up events and do event planning. So when we know that we're missing pipeline in a certain region on a certain product, let's go after those accounts in those regions. Now, Sean, hopefully I left you enough time here. Try to get through the beginning. Yep. So Sean's going to talk to you about our journey that we've been through from Cisco into predictive.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. So I'm an associate data scientist and marketing manager at Cisco in the digital marketing organization. And for most of my career, I've had an opportunity to really sit between the intersection of technology and data and marketing. And I was asked to share information about our journey into predictive so far. And my goal is to share information with you that hopefully helps you to evaluate predictive, or if you're already evaluating, help you to accelerate your journey in predictive. And I think this notion of focusing on the journey, not the destination, is very important. Looking back, I can see that it was a journey. It took time to really build a foundation in place and then kind of pave that road internally that allows us to put predictive on top of it to really tap into the full value. Before that, we had chosen a specific place to experiment with predictive, and we're looking for some indicators that we were on the right track. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But one of the things I want to recommend to you is just keep in mind that it is a journey and not necessarily a destination. It's not something you're going to build as a model or a capability and park it and just use the output, but it will become a part of your digital marketing strategy, in my experience. So our journey really started when our executives seized on an opportunity to really partner more closely with sales. And what they started to do was really clearly identify what could marketing do to deliver to sales in terms of pipeline, in terms of value. And at that time, we identified providing valuable customer insights, warmer leads, faster qualification timeframes. These were the things that we were looking to deliver through predictive. And in addition to that, what our team did was really develop a framework across that demand generation waterfall that really allowed us to connect those customer interactions and send them all the way through our platforms to sales. And this was really, again, part of the foundation that we had to put in place up front in order for us to be able to really show the value of predictive and have sales agree that we're providing that kind of value. Now, as Amanda talked about, we go back in terms of our early days of scoring, and it's what we called engagement scoring. And what we essentially did here was, Amanda actually helped to create this scoring model, but what it did was it really captured billions of clicks and interactions, which really meant millions of individuals, thousands of customers, and what it did was it fed that into a scoring engine. And this scoring engine identified which customers were in that purchase stage, what were they interested in purchasing. And what we did at that point was generate a standard output, apply some business rules, and then send an alert to sales. And this was the beginning of our foundation headed towards predictive. Now, we knew we needed to really take this up a level and really become more sophisticated, not only for the data that we had available today, but also the data that will be made available into the future. And so what we did was we branded our initiative internally as auto-qualified leads. That's a pretty high bar to set to say that we're going to predict a lead, you call, and they're going to be ready to buy. So in some cases, they're not, and it's all about that timing aspect. And so what we were able to do, working with 6 Sense, is to take our first-party data, match that up with their third-party data in their data network, and that is going to create a more higher-performing predictive model. And what they're able to do is predict which customers are in the purchase phase. And our goal there as marketing is to earn a wider and wider pipeline direct to sales So we get speed of business and some cost efficiencies, which I'll talk about. And then those customers that were predicted to be in the decision or consideration phase, we could drop them into partner programs, call blitzes, where we've got some offers, some content, and some ways to further develop that customer's interest. And then awareness. And so customers predicted in awareness, we could put an always-on nurturing journey into our marketing automation platform. And moving forward, we're even looking at sending digital insights to our account-based marketing initiative as well. So this is our initiative today, and what we found is that there really is art and science in the data. There's really a story in the data, and it's the customer's journey. And so if you have the right tools, the right people resources and capabilities, or you acquire those working with a predictive vendor, you can really tap into the value of the data. So our goals for our initiative for auto-qualified leads were to use these models to deliver higher conversion rates, to deliver higher quality leads to sales with rich insights that gave them a reason to actually call the customer. And we also wanted to really capitalize on some cost savings in terms of not sending everything to a call center, right? Being able to send the highest probability scored contacts direct to sales. And that's where you're going to get that speed of business and the cost savings that comes into play. So results. And we took small steps in our journey here, and where we're at now is ready to take a next big step. But in our first leg of our journey, we were looking for some positive indicators that we were on the right track. And we found those indicators. And the first indicator was that qualitatively, the sales team said these leads are as good or better than the leads that marketing has been providing us in the past. Okay, great. Second, we saw that, and I'm going to add a little stat here, of the leads that were actioned but actually rejected, we actually found out that 84% of those during our first leg of this journey here were rejected because they were already deals in the pipeline. And I thought from a modeler's perspective, that really is an important point. It tells you that the model is working, but that we need to improve our timing from prediction to getting it to sales. And that's something we put a lot of work into, part of that foundation that I talked about. And that's something you'll really want to focus on up front as a part of your foundation. And we also saw that we had, of the leads that were predicted and then validated as marketing qualified leads, 71% of those actually converted to a sales qualified lead, a very strong conversion rate. And what we also saw was that our average deal size increased by 5x. So our traditional inbound leads were about 11K per opportunity size. And in our first leg of our journey, we saw that increased to 50K per opportunity, which was a really strong indicator that we're on the right track as well. So you put all of that together, and that's what really allowed us to kind of look back at where we had been in this first leg of our journey and realize we're on the right track here. So turning science into art, this is a topic that I'm really passionate about because it's really where my role is today. What I do is I work with our data science teams internally. I work with our business partners like 6 Sense in order to really translate what they're providing from that really technical model perspective into business value for marketing and therefore to sales. And so I just wanted to share with you, you can't underestimate how important it is to have someone who can really do that translating, who can work with those data science teams and then also work with marketing and the business as well. And so one of the things we're looking to do, we're working on with 6 Sense moving forward, is really tapping into their great expertise and their talent to help us scale predictive more broadly across Cisco. So our journey with predictive, as I talked about, we started out in 2012 where our executives seized on an opportunity to more closely partner with sales. And at that time, we had about a 5 to 10% conversion rate for the leads that we sent to our call centers. And fast forward to 2013, through implementing frameworks, benchmarks, and metrics discipline, we were able to actually increase our marketing sourced sales qualified lead contribution to $2.8 billion. And heading into 2015, we achieved a $5 billion marketing sourced sales qualified lead contribution. Fast forward to 2016, or today, we are on track for $7 billion. And a lot of this was the common language with sales and the revenue marketing approach that we took, which allows us to really demonstrate marketing's contribution. Now, the performance that we're seeing from the model with our business partner, 6 Sense, we're looking at that as, well, in the past it was really a small percentage of the total $5 billion. But the point was we could see what was possible for the future. And I think that one of the things that Predictive is going to allow us to do is really to either continue that acceleration path that we're on because of the scale and efficiencies that these models provide, but also if we start to hit a plateau in our SQL contribution as a marketing organization, I think that when Predictive is really hitting on all cylinders across as many of our segments as possible, it could help us to break out of any plateau we might be in. And so that's really what I'm focused on, is really driving a sustained performance like what we saw in our first part of our journey, and want to do that everywhere, globally across our company. So the return on investment. So we talked about the 71% marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead conversion rate, very strong. We also, as I mentioned, saw a 5x increase in our average opportunity size. That accounted for, in our first phase of our journey, $10 million in sales qualified leads. And so, again, what we're looking to do moving forward is really expand that. And I want to just make a comment. It's interesting, a few years ago, and looking at the time here, a few years ago, when I got assigned this project, I was asked to evaluate Predictive, to build a prototype, work with some innovative vendors in the space. And what I see now is that our executives have clearly identified Predictive as a key component of our digital marketing strategy. And we're really starting to see the possibilities open up, where it's not just about the predictive lead, it's about digital insights that we can feed to many areas of the business. And so we're exploring new use cases with Predictive. We're really looking forward to reaping some of the cost savings around the call center qualification. Also, through the subscription that we have and the work we're doing with 6 Sense, we're going to be able to really have better omni-channel visibility to the engagement we have with our customers, and have better visibility to our brand investments and our execution. And we're also looking at integrating the output of the scoring model directly into our key marketing automation platforms. So this was our journey in Predictive. I hope that I was able to share with you some things that will help you either today or sometime in the future. If I could just offer one recommendation, if you don't remember anything else from the presentation, it's start now, build that foundation, pave that road now, because that will reduce the time that you're going to need to wait when you're ready to really take full advantage of this capability. So thank you very much.
So I just have a few other slides I wanted to add on to that. And so Sean, thank you so much. And it's been this really, I mean, I feel incredibly blessed to be on this path and have believers like Cisco that believed in us like 6 years ago. And when I look back at the opportunity of Predictive, I think what most people think of as Predictive is just the predictive lead scoring, right? So a lead comes in and I see that opportunity and I want to score it. And basically that's what we already have visibility into. So that's prioritizing the known. But really the huge value of Predictive is so much more than just the lead scoring. So if you're doing it for lead scoring, there are a lot of companies that'll go through and like score your leads and give you account scores and things like that. But if you really want to see the ROI that Cisco is seeing and take advantage of the full value, it goes across every touch point from sales and marketing. And this is one of my favorite examples of that. So, and actually I took these words from Sean. He was talking about brand to demand, and I say brand to demand to close. And what does that mean? So imagine that you're spending, Cisco spends lots of millions of dollars, I'm not at privy to share how much, but on a lot of advertising and media and content syndication, right? So they're spending with TechTarget and IDG and Forbes and CIO and all these big companies, right, where they know their IT buyers are going. And imagine when they're spending, like just at the first step there, to say, I'm only going to target companies that are in the awareness or consideration stages of purchasing. I actually don't want to target companies that are in the purchase stage or decision because they already know about us. I'm not going to waste my good brand dollars, my advertising dollars if they're deep in the funnel. So when you think about account-based marketing, right, so all those marketing tactics, not just going after a target account list, but you're going after accounts that have a need based on the products and where they are in their buying cycle. So not only you can go focus on the right people, but you can also give them the right message. So then you hit them in these channels, and then imagine now we're tagging everything that's going on in these channels, and we're getting all those impressions, so they never click through to Cisco.com. So unfortunately, they ran all these ads, they do all this syndication, it's on content-based channels that Cisco is spending on, but nobody goes through. But they are actually hitting their message, and their message is getting across. And marketing knows that they're influencing those sales. And then the outbound sales team goes and calls on this account, and then they close. And today, marketing gets no credit for that, right? So marketing gets no credit for touching them 15 times with tens of millions of dollars of advertising dollars and getting them in these channels if they don't click through and become a lead and raise their hand and go through that traditional process. But now imagine if we're tracking this and we can see those accounts that you're targeting, we can see what's happening and where you're predicting, then they close, marketing can take credit for that information. So like one way actually Sean explained it too is think of it as retargeting without ever hitting your website. Right, so knowing who's in market to buy, and I can retarget those companies who actually have a need and are raising their hand across external channels and your own channels. So it's what's happening on your website, but outside in the greater world as well. And another example of this is thinking about your DMP, so using predictive to light up your DMP. So if you think about it, we're making the prediction of where these accounts are in their buying process, and then we're syncing those cookies and the IP addresses. Again, it can't just be about the account. So the IP to company vendors and people who are doing all just this account-based stuff, you're going to waste so much money going after, if you're going after any big companies, and there's hundreds of thousands of employees, you're going to be hitting all of them. You really want to hit the right person within that company. So you need to use a combination of both, right? So you need to know, I want to go after Dell, and then I want to go after the CMO, I want to go after the demand generation, the people that I'm selling to. I don't want to sell into all the IT people in Dell who are building the Dell products because they could care less about 6 cents, right? So I need to be going after those people that actually have the most likelihood to purchase my products and actually make the right fit of the profile. And then you can run those ads at an account level. So it's the static attributes of the account, it's that they're in market, and then finding the right people within those accounts. So I'm just going to close on just a couple of results, but before I do, so going back to that 1% example, right? So as you're going through search or you're syndicating content, if 1% goes through, the opportunity for predictive, if I could just take that 1% to 2%, that's where you get the billions of dollars, right? We can increase that. If I can just double, if right now 1% is what you have visibility into, if I go to 2%, I'm doubling your potential pipeline, right? So the opportunity is just so huge. And I look at it as the more and more data that we get, right? So we started with just Cisco's data 6 years ago, and that's where we started to see like the 5% conversion went to 23%. And we were doing things internally with their own systems and building this internal model. And then when we layer in the other external data signals, you can actually start to find more, and actually you get quality too, because you get more signals from those individual companies you're purchasing. So the opportunity, it's just huge. It just gets stronger and stronger. We can start to have more visibility into every buyer. And I'm not making any claim that we can see every single buyer in every industry or every vertical, but that's the goal. That's the holy grail, right? Like we'd love to be able to look at all the signals that are happening and be able to find those buyers when they're actually in market. So a couple just results I can show you. So this is one company, it's another computer company. In one period, in one 30-day period, they opened 3,000 opportunities. 6 cents predicted 2,400 of those 3,000 that they ended up opening. So we found 79% of the opportunities that they opened in that period. One of my favorite examples is Blue Jeans. Their president just went on the record with Gartner a few weeks ago and was sharing a story how they took 1,800 accounts that they typically would call into, prospects and leads that they would call into. They took 1,800 that 6 cents says were in market to buy. They told the sales team they were all from 6 cents, so they lied. This is the only time in my life I'm going to advocate lying. But you don't want to bias your sales team. Any good controlled experiment, you don't want them to know which is which. So we told them they're all from 6 cents. In a 30-day period, of the 1,800 that we predicted, 299 of them converted into opportunities. And only 15 of those in the control group that they typically would call on, and that matched their typical conversion rate. So it was a 20x increase in what they're typically used to seeing. They also saw, similar to Cisco, their opportunity value, it typically was about a $10,000. Each opportunity that was coming through was about a $10,000 deal. And the opportunity value that was coming through with 6 cents was $26,000. I can't claim to know why. I like to say, well, maybe because they're doing a lot more research, I can pontificate as to why, but we keep seeing this over and over again. And it's also, though, if you're getting in early. I go back to what Gartner and Forrester and all the good analysts will tell you, and even myself, if I'm coming in and educating you on predictive, and I'm the first one to have that conversation, most likely I can increase the deal size, right? If I'm later in the game and you're already with somebody else and I'm moving you over and I can't influence that process, the earlier you get in, the larger you can increase the deal size. So I think this is another reason, because one of the biggest values of predictive is getting in early. So it's not just knowing that they're going to buy, you get in before they raise their hand and come into your systems. And so the quantifiable case study that Blue Jeans made for themselves is they looked at this period that they were doing this test, and then they did it for another quarter out with their commercial sales team. And they basically said that they're putting us on the hook for about $8 million for them. Now Cisco would fire us if we just found $8 million right in pipeline. But for them, this is huge, right? So this is a company that's an earlier stage startup that's competing with actually some products that Cisco has, looking at kind of online conferencing tools. And they also found that they typically would have 1 in 33 touches to convert, and they had 1 in 10 touches. So it was a third the sales productivity, the effort for a salesperson, so all those emails and phone outreach, they didn't have to outreach as much to turn that lead into an opportunity. Exactly the quarter before they went public, 86% of their business came from predictions that we predicted. And one of my favorite ones, and I'm just going to leave you on this one, is that they found a $1.7 million deal from a beer distribution company. So if they looked at profile scoring, so again, going back to what profile scoring is and what most of the vendors, if you can turn it on in a day or an hour or a week even, it's all just based on static columns of data that I can turn on, and it's always predictable in the same thing. But that's just scoring that it fits the profile. This beer distribution company never would have fit the profile of the right company they would sell to. They'd never sold to a beer company before. They were actually in a sales cycle with one of their competitors, and it turned into a $1.7 million deal. It's the third largest deal in the company's history. So if they just looked at profile scoring and weren't looking at the in-market scoring, they never would have found this company. But we saw the signals that this company was searching for sales compensation software and said, you should go talk to them. And they called them, and they actually turned it into a deal. So these are the kinds of things that it's really important to kind of think about, the distinction between knowing somebody's in market and knowing that they actually look like somebody else that I sold to before. And that concludes with 1 minute and 37 seconds left to go. So I think we have a few minutes for questions, if you guys have any. Oh, we're over.
We're
Okay,
over by almost 2 minutes.
Oh,
maybe
shucks.
one question, but then can you stick around for a few
Of
minutes
course,
afterwards?
yeah.
Great. Great. Okay, thanks so much to both Sean Beierly and Amanda Kahlo for that great session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.